to start today by asking you a stupid question. It's a stupid question because I already know the answer. Here's a question. Is there anything in your life that you wish wasn't there? Think about it. Is there anything at all, that you wish was not a part of your life? Maybe you're not as good looking as you think that you should be. Or maybe you're not as athletic as you think that you should be. Maybe you have family problems. Maybe your parents are divorced or in the middle of a middle of squabbling or something like that. And you just think, if you could just get this one thing out of your life, you'd be happy. Well, the Apostle Paul thought like that in this chapter. In 2 Corinthians chapter 12, the Apostle Paul is talking about the revelations that God has given him. He says that he was caught up to the third heaven and that God gave him things that were unlawful to utter. You know, the Apostle Paul is a pretty mightily used guy. God used him to write, half of the New Testament. God used him as a missionary. God used him as somebody that was influential in the early church. And there's no doubt in anybody's mind that the Apostle Paul was mightily used of God. You know what Apostle Paul says in verse 7 of 2 Corinthians chapter 12? He says, "Lest I should be exalted above measure, through the abundance of the revelations, there was given to me a thorn." There was given to me a thorn. You know what? Sometimes God puts unsavory things in our life, thorns, if you will, for our benefit. Sometimes God gives us stuff that we just think stinks, and it's for our benefit. I can think of several instances, several real-life things that sometimes we don't like, but are for our benefit. How many of you, your parents, ever made you take penicillin? I remember there was something I got when I was a kid. My parents made me take penicillin, and those pills just tasted nasty. I hated them. But I'd be pretty rough shape if I didn't take them. You know, that was a pretty tough pill to swallow, literally. But I needed it. And you know, so many things that has happened in my life, be they rules, be they, the fact that I'm probably the least athletic person that you've ever met, just different things, my family situation. I would never wish those things on anybody. But God is more wise than I am. And He put those things in my life for a reason. Look at the last verse of this section of this chapter, verse 10. Paul says this, "Therefore I take pleasure in infirmities, in reproaches, in necessities, in persecutions, in distresses." Here he names some things that were his thorns that Christ had given him, that God had given him. The first thing he says is infirmities. Those are physical weaknesses. You know, sometimes there's physical things wrong with us. Maybe we're sick. Maybe we're not as athletic as we think we should be, or as tall as we think we should be, or in Paul's case, he was blind. We're not as handsome as we think we should be. And they're physical things, physical problems, some more severe than others, that we have to deal with, and we say, why in the world do I have to go through this? You know, usually it's a thorn. It's a gift from God. Another thing he says here, infirmities, reproaches. Those are insults. You ever felt insulted by somebody? You know, maybe they should have included you in something and they didn't. Maybe they're just flat out mean and hateful to you. And you think, I'm trying to live the Christian life. I'm trying to do the right thing. Why would anyone want to insult me? Well, that's a thorn, a gift that God gives us. Another thing it says, in persecutions, in necessities. Paul went through periods of his life where he was in genuine need. I mean, of things that, he asks in some passage for a coat, for a cloak. Sometimes we need things. And we think, my life would be so much better if I didn't need this. If I had all the money that I needed, or if I had, the ability to go to a steakhouse every single night. If I just had all those needs, or we think they're needs, met, I'd be happy. Another thing he says is persecutions. Now, I doubt anyone listening to this has ever been really persecuted, at least not in the United States. But sometimes we're trying to do something for Christ, and people take it the wrong way, and they can be hateful. And that hurts. Here's the question: why does God give us these things? Well, it says at the end of the verse, it says, "For when I am weak, then am I strong." God gives us thorns in the flesh. God doesn't give us exactly what we want for this purpose. When we are weak, then He is strong. When we are weak, then we are strong through Him. You know, so often things come up in my life that I just wish I didn't have to deal with. You know, problems, or people say things that I wish I didn't hear. And I think, why am I dealing with this? Does God care? When I should be thinking, this is a gift that God's given me. And it should drive me to my knees. It should drive me to a deeper love for Jesus Christ. Because if I went through life and everything was free and easy, I would never need Him. So what is it in your life right now that you hate? What stinks? What do you wish couldn't be there? Maybe you need to take time and thank God for it. Maybe you need to thank God for your gift of thorns. Thanks for listening. This has been Ryan Hayden. This is Tips for Teens.